Hey everyone, CJ here. It's time for another episode of Open the World Map. I have recently spoken to Michał from the Polish YouTube channel Baniak Baniaka, and I have learned a lot about the Polish tabletop gaming scene. We had a really fascinating conversation, and I would like to invite you to join us on our Geek Out session. Thanks a lot, Michał, for joining us. Let's start with a strong question. I was actually introduced to your channel and yourself by a YouTube commenter, and because he's said something very interesting to me, and it's that Dungeons and Dragons is not the most popular tabletop RPG in Poland. Is that right?
Well, actually, he was right. The D&D is one of the three major role-playing games in Poland. It depends on the survey. Sometimes it's on the first place, sometimes second, or maybe even third. But it's one of the top 5 role-playing games in Poland.
Okay, that's interesting. I guess, my patron also asked me to, of course, ask the obvious question. What is actually the most popular tabletop RPG in Poland?
Well, maybe we can go back to your question about the D&D, because we only had the 3rd edition, 3.5 edition in Polish. Only 3 handbooks from the 4th one. So I think there is still a language barrier. That's why D&D isn't the most popular in Poland. We mostly still play the 3rd edition, despite that we had the 4th one. Because we had the handbooks translated. So there is also a major group that switched to the 5th edition, despite that it's written in English. But for many of Polish people, still language is a barrier.
Okay, that's interesting. I assume there would be a tabletop role-playing culture in Poland, and where do people usually play? Do they play at home, or do they play in shops or other public places like cafe?
I would risk saying that mostly we play at home. We do not have that many nerdy shops or shops specifically only with role-playing games. I would say that maybe in the whole country we have maybe 1 or 2 only with role-playing games, only with handbooks. They are usually mixed with board games. Board games are very popular in Poland, like maybe 10 times more than role-playing games. And as well card games, like Magic the Gathering. Polish role-playing maniacs love playing on conventions. We have so many fantasy cons that there's almost an event every weekend in a different part of Poland. Sometimes there are even 2 conventions at once. And young people, fresh players, love going there, and there's always somebody or a large group of people offering themselves as game masters and offering to teach how to play role-playing games. So I would say mostly at home, and second-hand conventions. At stores, maybe at the third place, but I would put also fantasy clubs, because we've got some fantasy clubs in most major cities, or even smaller ones, where people gather and play role-playing games.
Okay, right. Okay, that's fascinating though, because if you are going to conventions, I guess there needs to be a way to track their progress. Does it mean that Adventurers League is quite popular in Poland, or do people just play it anyway without any way of tracking progress?
Oh, you mean tracking progress of what?
Like level up, because in Adventurers League there is a log sheet to measure how much experience point, how much gold you have earned.
Well, playing at conventions, it means that usually you play only once, so it's a one shot session, and that's pretty fine with most of people, because it came, I think, from the fact that Warhammer fantasy role-playing game is I think more popular than D&D. So it's not that leveling up is important for us, for Polish role players, than having just a good time and not experiencing and watching your character develop. So we focus on some other stuff than gathering treasures and leveling up and killing dragons or minions by the hundreds. So there are adventure leagues. I think now we've got maybe 5 of them in couple of major cities. They are being run by professional dungeon masters, but I think it's still pretty rare because we mostly play at homes or cons. As I said, D&D isn't that popular because of the language barrier. I used to play Dungeons and Dragons I had a very long campaign for 2 years, but later on I switched back to Warhammer because we've got so many very good books published in Polish. We had the first edition, which actually was one of the first role-playing games published in Polish in the 1990s. So a lot of now players in their average, in their middle age, like 35 plus, 45, we grew up on the game published in the 1990s, like Warhammer, the first edition, like the Call of Cthulhu, like the Shadowrun, or couple of like the World of Darkness, which was the vampire at first. So later on, Warhammer second edition came, and it instantaneously became published in Polish. We didn't have the third one, but the fourth one is coming. So Warhammer is, I think, essentially at the core of our Polish game mastering. D&D came a little bit too late, I think, because we didn't have the first Dungeons and Dragons, we didn't have the AD&D. The third edition in 2001 came in Polish.
All right, okay, that's very interesting. So I guess it's a matter of first come first serve. Whichever company started first, they would get it. So with Warhammer, is it the fantasy Warhammer genre that Polish people like, or is it the Warhammer 40k? I think 40k is quite popular in the rest of the world, I think.
I think the miniatures are even more popular than the 40k miniatures are more popular than the fantasy miniatures. That's for sure. Well, as you know, there have been some RPGs in the Warhammer 40k by Fantasy Flight Games, right? We had the Rogue Trader, Dark Heresy, and Only War, and etc. I was the chief editor of second edition of Dark Heresy in Poland.
Oh, I like that one. Yeah,
you should do that.
Yeah. I didn't know that, but it's great to know. But yeah, I really like that game. It had lots of like dark sort of humor that we go. It's like quite a romp in that world. It's good. It's good.
I can even show you. Okay, hold on. Here's my baby. It's the Dark Heresy. It's in Polish role-playing game. So I was working for almost 18 months with a group of translators to put this whole book, almost 2 kilograms, into Polish. And my goal was to introduce Polish players to first Polish 40k role-playing game. And it succeeded. Dark Heresy is in top 5 mostly played role-playing games in Poland.
How about Pathfinder? How is Pathfinder doing in Poland? Because it's really just a cousin of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, and I think it's good that you ask, because I think Pathfinder is more popular even than Dungeons and Dragons 3.0 or 3.5 for that matter. Because we were not talking about the fourth one. We had only 3 handbooks in Polish, so it didn't go so well. So when I talk with game masters, I talk with a lot of them, Pathfinder is in the top 10, I think. But I'm sorry, but I haven't played it. I'm not that fan of a D20 rule system. Sorry, but I know it is very very popular.
All right. Do you think something will change if Dungeons and Dragons is released in the Polish language?
You mean the next edition?
That's right, yeah? 5th edition.
The 5th edition, there was a very big boom in Poland when the publishers announced the 5th edition, and they announced that they are working on the Polish one. But it was some time ago. I don't know, a year maybe. You're the expert on D&D. When was it announced?
Oh, I don't know. It's like I'm not tracking all the different languages. I know it's been translated to 5 languages. With German. Yeah, it's been translated in some language, in Portuguese, in German, in Japanese, and some other languages. I don't know.
But they announced the Polish one, but still we haven't heard anything. It's a complete silence, and many of us just lost hope. Too bad that Wizards of the Coast said something and nothing went after it, right? No more announcements. So actually, fingers crossed, and we're waiting.
You said you are not really into D20. I know that there is also another game like Call of Cthulhu that doesn't use D20, which I think Dark Heresy 2 practically used the basic roleplay system from Call of Cthulhu or Chaosium, RuneQuest. So how is Call of Cthulhu doing in Poland? Because I know in a few Asian countries it seems to be really popular. In Japan and in Taiwan, it's popular. More popular than Dungeons and Dragons. How is it doing in Poland?
Well, I think Japan loves tentacles, so Call of Cthulhu must be popular there. Well, actually, Call of Cthulhu, as I said, was one of the first published role-playing games in the 90s. So it straight on went to the same core in Poland. Later on, we had the 5.5 edition, the main book published. We had the 6th edition as well, and now we have the 7th one. And about 3 months ago, it was announced by the Black Monk Games in Poland. It's a Polish company. They announced that they are publishing the 7th edition in Poland, and I am happy to announce as well that I am one of the ambassadors of the whole project. So my job is gonna promote the system in Poland, and I love the changes they made to the 7th one. I'm really hoping to see it in Polish. I mean, I think in about 6 months, in 19. So it's good. It's doing very well, very well.
Oh, great! So, in general, in Poland, do people prefer fantasy or sci-fi?
I think that there should be like a survey run on that, because wow. I really can't tell, because we've got so many fantasy lovers and science fiction as well, because Poland loves 40K. We've got lots of novels published in Polish. CJ, I won't answer that, because lots of fantasy fans would hate me if I said science-fi and the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, in Europe, I think you guys are really spoiled for like this sort of dramatic like castle view, because there are so many castles in Europe and everything like that. It's so historical. If you want to go LARPing, you can go to actual castles and do all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's really easy, isn't it? And isn't The Witcher from Poland?
Yeah, it's our national treasure. The Witcher and I would say it's author Andrzej Sapkowski. Yeah, it is. So we've got wonderful mythology, Polish mythology and Polish legends. So you might say that fantasy maybe is more popular now if I look at that from this point of view. Well, as for the Witcher, we had the role-playing game published in 2001. But it didn't get many good reviews. And in my opinion, I played the role-playing game, The Witcher. It wasn't really good. Besides, it was released after the Polish Witcher the movie. We had one in Poland, which was, let's face it, it was crap. The series we had the series, the 13 episode series, The Witcher, which actually was the movie, the strengthened and longer version of the movie. Yes, it's like a trend in Poland. They make a movie and later on they make a series from it. You had the same scenes, but additional scenes between the scenes from the movie, and they make a series. So the series was pretty good, but the movie was awful. So we are waiting for the Witcher, the new Witcher, the role playing game.
Oh yeah. There is also.
The Netflix. Yes, it's starting. I think next month they're starting on the Witcher. The Netflix is starting on the Witcher, the series, or the movie. I don't know, something like that. But Witcher got very popular in the whole world thanks to the CD Projekt. They released the free Witcher games. So yeah, as I said, it's our national treasure.
All right. Well, talking about CD Projekt Red, their next project is Cyberpunk. I wonder if them choosing Cyberpunk means that Cyberpunk had been popular in Poland for a while.
Yes, because as well as as I said, I'm gonna repeat myself, but that was also one of the first Polish systems. It was published in the 90s, and it really got very popular, and people still play it. That it doesn't matter that it was published almost 30 years ago. It's still a very popular system, and I think there's gonna be a Cyberpunk 77 soon. Role-playing game, yeah. I'm not talking about the game, the computer game. That's obvious. But we will have the Cyberpunk next generation role-playing game.
All right, I kind of wonder if they are going to simplify it like how 5th edition does it, because everything seems to be going towards simplification nowadays, even Pathfinder 2 and so on.
Okay. Well, the first Cyberpunk RPG, the opinion is it's very complicated. Just a simple to-hit roll or throwing a grenade, you have to make a series of rolls. So it takes too long. I think it came from the time that authors loved putting everything into charts. The distance into charts, the to-hit percentage into charts, everything into charts. So the Middle Earth role-playing game, it was full of charts, too many of them. And as you said, yeah, everything is going into towards the simplification.
This is just a quick observation, because with Warhammer being such a dark and gritty sort of fantasy, and The Witcher also feels kind of dark and gritty. Is it? Do Polish people prefer like darker fantasy or something like that?
Well, I think we play. I think we do. We had the Dark Ages in Poland, right? like the dark Middle Ages, and I think even we play D&D a little bit differently than the Americans, maybe. I don't know how Australians play it, because most of us were raised on the first edition of Warhammer, and as you said, it's very dark and grim. So it is very deeply in our fandom. So I don't think that we like playing with so many charts. Like the third edition had lots of them. Do you agree? Yeah, lots of charts. I don't think that we prefer playing nice and shiny golden armors who slay monsters by the hundreds. I think we prefer a little grim role playing and not moving miniatures so often, and not so much of dice rolling. Of course, every game master has its own game to run in his own way, but that's just my opinion based on talking to game masters. So I think we also tend to play D&D a little differently.
Right, I see. Okay, that's quite fascinating. Is death more common in Polish game? Does it make death a lot more common?
Maybe it comes from the. I don't want to be dragged into politics, but I think our regular everyday life is a little bit darker than the American dream.
Right, I see. Okay.
As we know from Hollywood movies.
Mm-hmm.
There's every time the sun is shining and the hero always drives toward the horizon, but our Polish life is a little bit grim. It's not that fun.
Lots of like stories or tragic heroism in Polish mythology or things like that.
Maybe not in Polish mythology. Well, we've got great history of monsters and creatures in our Polish mythology. Yeah. I even prepared for you some of Polish monsters, which were very terrifying. If you'd like to hear what kind of monsters we had in Polish mythology, I found for you, for example, the Drowner.
I kind of heard that name from The Witcher. Yeah,
really?
Is it based on a real Polish mythological creature?
Yeah, I would ask answering that all of them were based on Polish mythology. Sorry, but I haven't played the Witcher games, so I'm not very familiar with the games. I only read a couple of books. So, okay, if you know the Drowner, we had also the Rodzanice. The name comes from giving birth. So they were three invisible ghosts who used to come at the time of the birth and tell the child's fate. They also took care of the pregnant women, and the superstition was that the first cut hair of the child were supposed to given to them as a sacrifice. And another one, for example, there was a demon which was born from a miscarried child, and if you didn't bury the child beneath the corner of your hut, the child would come back, haunt you, and try to make your life very miserable. So you had to bury your miscarried child under the corner of your house.
Yeah, sounds like all these creatures are creatures I've fought in the game before. yeah, which is incredibly fascinating, and it's like in Polish mythology, do they fight these creatures? Is there a way of winning, or is it more like a eldritch horror that all you can do is to run away?
We had a couple of heroes like Dratewka, who slayed the dragon by poisoning the sheep and giving it to the dragon, and the dragon was so thirsty after drinking the poison that he had to drink the whole river, and suddenly he popped, and that's the way he killed the dragon. He was a young boy, but we don't have that many mythology heroes in golden shiny armors, as I said. Mostly the creatures were the ones which you should be afraid of, really afraid. They were connected with death, with drowning, with killing, with committing suicide, with controlling the weather, controlling the crops, protecting your own house, protecting your children, or even we had the devil which made you drunk when you went out to meet your friends. And when you came back home to your wife and you told her that it was the demon's fault that you got drunk.
Okay.
So we didn't fight them. We didn't. We just obeyed them and tried to obey their rules and give them sacrifice, like the first crops, the small amount of food we used to just put into the grass for the little not dwarfs, not like little elves. I don't know how to translate it in English. Like little small dwarfs. You had to put sample of your food outside.
Okay, it's very fascinating, isn't it? Yeah, it's like, whoa, it's like you guys are pretty much still living in a world of mythology. Do people still practice this, or is it more of something the older generation do?
If I may quote the Beowulf, have you seen the film Beowulf? The Christian God killed them.
All right. Okay.
The Christianity came to Poland in the 10th century, and actually we stopped believing in all those demons and ghosts. There is a group in Poland that they still worship the all-seeing God, but I don't think that it's that serious. It's like trying to not letting the mythology die off. Like keeping all those habits and all those ceremonies alive.
Do you think, Dungeons and Dragons should incorporate more of this like darker creature maybe into a sort of like another demi-plane of Ravenloft in Dungeons and Dragons, full of like Slavic Polish legends?
You know what? I think not. No, I think not. But I wouldn't mix D&D because D&D is great in its own way. People love this heroism in D&D because when we're playing Warhammer, you get hold on. You are born in mud and dirt and piles of crap, sorry for my language, and you try to get out of it, but still eventually you die in the mud, in the dirt, and no one remembers you. And D&D is different. Yeah, you start as a hero, you can cast spells almost unlimitedly. You got your armor, you slay dragons, and that's fine. That's fine. It's just another system. I wouldn't put Polish mythology into D&D. I would suggest playing a different game like The Witcher.
What is your secret sauce to running a great game?
All right. I would say prepare yourself before every session. Like, do not start unprepared. Like, okay, today I'm gonna improvise everything. I don't think that's a good way. It sometimes is because sometimes it's an unforgettable session. But I think that's you should respect your players because they come and they want to have fun. And if you improvise everything, some of those ideas may be a little bit too shallow. So preparing yourself to a session, I think it's essential thing for a game master. I always tell other players and game masters to be nice, be friendly, do not argue, and as I said, remember that the good session is the one which when everybody had a good time. Everybody, not most of the players, everybody. So basically, it's my secret sauce. Not very secret.
And that was Michał from Poland. You can find the link to his channel in the description below. Before I end the video, let me give thanks to my Patreon supporters for supporting this series. If you like what I'm doing, consider joining Patreon so that you can also ask questions to our future interviewee. Subscribe to the channel and remember to click on future videos so that you can open the world map as we explore tabletop RPG cultures from all around the world. CJ, over and out.